Rain poured outside the hospital window, drumming a relentless rhythm against the glass. Fiona Hartley lay motionless in the bed, her chest rising and falling in sync with the storm outside. But this wasn't just sleep, it was a pause between lives. Memories of betrayal, pain, and the cold hand of death itself coursed through her mind. I remember everything, she thought, her eyes snapping open. The lies. The schemes. The fake heiress who stole my life, and my death. But this time, I won't be powerless. Somewhere far away, in a world of champagne glasses and glittering gowns, Isabella Crane laughed, radiant in her ill-gotten status as the Hartley family's supposed heiress. She was everything Fiona had been forced to endure, admired, envied, and dangerously untouchable. In the Hartley mansion, Fiona's parents were uneasy. Henry Hartley, stern but loving, frowned as he watched Isabella charm the room. "I can't shake the feeling something about Isabella isn't right," he whispered to Victoria, his voice tight with unease. Victoria, calm but perceptive, placed a hand on his arm. "Henry, we've built everything around her now. Don't let doubts cloud your judgment. It's not worth it." Fiona, reborn in her younger body, observed silently from the shadows of the grand hall. Something miraculous had changed, her thoughts no longer belonged to her alone. "Father, she's lying. She never loved this family," her thoughts echoed in Henry's mind like a sudden thunderclap. Henry froze, heart hammering. "Who said that?" A small, victorious smirk tugged at Fiona's lips. The game had begun. Later that night, Fiona sat before her mirror in her room, her reflection a reminder of everything stolen from her. She traced a finger along her lips, whispering only to herself. Step 1, observe. Step 2, expose. Step 3, reclaim. Isabella won't even see it coming. Her phone buzzed. A message from Liam Chen, her childhood friend and one of the few people she trusted, appeared. "Hey Fiona, heard some rumors about Isabella. Are you okay?" Fiona's eyes sparkled. "Perfect. Old allies can be useful." The next evening, the Hartleys gathered for dinner. Isabella, ever the performer, leaned close to Fiona with a false sweetness that made Fiona's stomach churn. "Fiona, darling, you've grown. So fragile, yet so cute," Isabella cooed, her eyes glinting with calculated malice. Fiona smiled faintly on the outside, but inside, fire burned. "Cute. I'll make you regret every word." Henry cleared his throat, his expression unusually stern. "Isabella, there's something I need to ask you." Fiona's pulse quickened. Her thoughts reached her parents like invisible threads, giving them glimpses of Isabella's manipulations. Finally, they could see her perspective. Later that night, Fiona sat alone in her room, the storm outside finally letting up. She curled her legs beneath her and whispered to herself, a vow stronger than any oath. "The first move is made, and from now on, my family listens. My second chance starts now." The moonlight streamed through her window, illuminating her determined face. A quiet promise lingered in the air. In a world of lies, sometimes the truth comes with a voice only a few can hear. And sometimes, revenge speaks louder than words. The morning sun filtered through the curtains of the Hartley mansion, but Fiona barely noticed. She sat cross-legged on her bed, staring at her reflection. Every line, every curve, every subtle shift in her younger self's face reminded her, this was her second chance. And she would not waste it. Today begins the game, she thought. Every smile, every word, every gesture must be a step toward exposing her. Downstairs, the breakfast table was alive with polite conversation. Isabella, radiant as always, leaned close to Victoria, giggling at some private joke. Fiona's eyes narrowed. Perfect, she mused. She thinks everyone adores her. Time to show cracks in her perfect facade. She started small, letting subtle hints of truth slip through her thoughts, hoping her family would catch on without her overtly revealing herself. "Father," she thought, projecting her warning like a whisper carried by the wind, "remember the documents Isabella handled last week? Check them carefully." Henry frowned, a flicker of unease crossing his face. "Documents? What does she mean?" he muttered to Victoria. Victoria shot him a sharp look but made a mental note. The seed was planted. Fiona's mind then drifted toward Isabella. The girl was flawless in public, but flaws always existed somewhere, and Fiona was determined to find them. During breakfast, she accidentally dropped a book Isabella had placed near her, flipping it open to reveal a receipt from a luxury boutique, an expense the Hartley family had not approved. Small, but enough to start questioning her loyalty, Fiona thought, smirking inwardly. Isabella noticed the drop and laughed lightly, her voice smooth as silk. "Clumsy as always, Fiona," she said, her tone carrying that subtle superiority Fiona had always despised. Fiona's smile was sweet, innocent, but her thoughts were sharp as knives. "You'll learn respect, eventually." After breakfast, Fiona wandered into the Hartley family's study under the pretense of reading. Isabella followed, curious. "Reading again, Fiona?" Isabella asked, perching herself elegantly on the sofa. "You really want to catch up to me someday, don't you?" Fiona didn't answer out loud. She let Isabella's words hang in the air like a challenge. Instead, she thought, "Watch closely. I'm about to turn your world upside down." Fiona opened a ledger she knew Isabella had manipulated last week. She subtly rearranged some documents and notes, making it appear as though Isabella had overlooked a critical error in the company accounts. Then she stepped back, eyes calm, demeanor sweet, and left the room. Later that evening, as Isabella flaunted herself at a charity gala, Fiona's small ripples began to spread. Henry noticed the irregularities in the ledger and furrowed his brow. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered, a faint echo of Fiona's warning reverberating in his mind. Victoria, equally puzzled, kept her eyes on Isabella during the gala. Meanwhile, Fiona lingered in the shadows, watching her subtle schemes take root. She smiled faintly to herself, thinking, one step at a time. Every move, every observation, she won't see me coming until it's too late. When Liam Chen appeared later that evening, concern etched on his face, Fiona shared only a fraction of what she knew. "Something's off about Isabella," Liam said quietly, lowering his voice. "I've always felt it, but now," he trailed off, glancing nervously toward the main hall. Fiona met his gaze calmly. "Trust me. I've seen worse, and survived it. Soon, the truth will come to light." As the night deepened, Fiona lay in bed, her thoughts alive with strategy. Each whisper, each warning to her family, each planted clue brought her closer to reclaiming her life. "I may be small in appearance, but my mind is sharp," she mused. "By the time Isabella realizes what's happening, she'll have nowhere to hide." And for the first time since her rebirth, a feeling of satisfaction warmed her chest. Revenge, patient and precise, had begun. The Hartley mansion buzzed with preparations for the annual charity gala, a night where the family's wealth, influence, and prestige were on full display. For Isabella Crane, it was a stage to flaunt her dominance. For Fiona Hartley, it was the perfect battlefield. Fiona watched from her room as Isabella twirled in a silk gown, every movement precise, every smile rehearsed. So confident, so careless, Fiona thought. That overconfidence is her weakness. Downstairs, Victoria was fussing with floral arrangements, and Henry was reviewing the guest list. Fiona's thoughts drifted toward them, and she whispered inwardly, letting her words reach her family. "Watch the guest list carefully. Certain friends of Isabella have motives that could backfire." Henry paused mid-note, his pen hovering over the paper. "Strange. I feel there's someone here we shouldn't fully trust." Fiona smirked silently. She had already noticed several shady acquaintances Isabella had invited, minor players who had thrived on gossip and deceit. Tonight, they would be her pawns. The gala began. Chandelier lights sparkled off crystal glasses, laughter filled the hall, and music swirled like a living entity. Isabella moved gracefully, greeting guests with flawless smiles. But Fiona's eyes were everywhere, watching, analyzing, predicting. First step, she thought, disrupt her circle subtly. Make her doubt her allies. During a toast, Fiona accidentally spilled a glass of champagne near one of Isabella's closest friends. The young woman, flustered and embarrassed, muttered apologies to Isabella. Fiona leaned slightly closer, smiling innocently, but her thoughts were razor-sharp. "You see, not everyone follows your script, Isabella." Isabella glanced at the minor chaos, her brow furrowing ever so slightly. "What's wrong?" she murmured, though Fiona's smile remained calm and sweet. Next, Fiona moved toward the grand piano, where she accidentally overheard a whispered conversation about a business deal Isabella had claimed full credit for. With a subtle shift in posture, she allowed the overheard words to drift into her family's awareness. Henry froze mid-drink. "Isabella, taking credit again?" Victoria's eyes narrowed. "Something feels off." Fiona's heart raced, but only outwardly did she appear composed. Every whisper, every glance, every seemingly accidental act built a pattern. The cracks in Isabella's perfection were beginning to show. But Isabella was no fool. She began sensing that something was amiss. While smiling and laughing with guests, her mind flickered with doubt. Why do I feel watched? Every step seems planned. She caught Fiona observing her too intently, yet Fiona's expression was calm, almost too innocent. Impossible, she's just a child, Isabella reasoned, trying to shake the unease. Fiona, sensing Isabella's inner tension, allowed a small thought to escape, one that Henry and Victoria could just catch. She fears the truth is coming, and she doesn't know where from. Henry stiffened. Victoria's hands clenched subtly, sharing a silent understanding. Fiona then noticed Liam Chen among the crowd, his gaze subtly protective. She smiled inwardly. Good, keep your allies close. Tonight is only the beginning. By the end of the evening, Isabella felt a chill despite the warm hall. The perfectly controlled image she had cultivated for years was starting to falter, and though she could not pinpoint the source, a small seed of fear had been planted. Fiona, walking past her after the final toast, whispered nothing aloud, but her thoughts were crystal clear to those who needed to hear them. This gala was my first strike. And soon, the real game begins. Watch closely, Isabella. I'm no longer the girl you once crushed. As the lights dimmed and the last guests departed, Fiona's smile lingered in the shadows. Revenge was no longer just a plan, it was moving, breathing, and drawing the lines for the ultimate confrontation. The morning sunlight streamed through the Hartley mansion, but its warmth could not reach the tension in the air. Fiona Hartley sat quietly in the library, a folder of carefully gathered evidence resting in front of her. Receipts, contracts, and emails all subtly collected over the past week, each piece a brick in the foundation of her plan. Today, the truth will start to shine, she thought. And Isabella will feel it before she can stop me. Downstairs, Isabella strutted into the breakfast room, confident as ever. "Good morning, family," she sang, her smile flawless. "What a beautiful day to celebrate our successes." Fiona's eyes narrowed. Successes? Let's see how long that image lasts. Fiona had spent the previous days subtly planting doubts and redirecting attention. Now, she intended to deliver her first major strike. She waited for the perfect moment, Henry reviewing financial reports. As he flipped through pages, Fiona allowed her thoughts to slip into his awareness. "Father, look closely at the Crane acquisition contracts Isabella handled last month. Something doesn't add up." Henry's pen halted mid-note. "Crane acquisition, handled by Isabella? Let me see." Victoria noticed his hesitation. "What is it, Henry?" Henry's expression darkened. I think there's a discrepancy here. This report says the Crane acquisition profits are inflated. Isabella oversaw these documents herself." Fiona's lips curled into a barely perceptible smile. Isabella, standing near the breakfast table, stiffened. Her eyes flickered to Fiona, suspicion sharpening like a knife. "She's interfering. But how?" Isabella's thoughts raced, her usual composure faltering for the first time in years. Later that day, Fiona invited the family to the study, citing a casual review of company matters. She left Isabella no choice but to attend. "Henry, Victoria, I thought it might be helpful to go over the Crane deal again," Fiona said sweetly, her tone innocent, her gaze sharp. "There are minor inconsistencies worth noting." As she spoke, she displayed the carefully gathered evidence, discrepancies in financial reports, forged signatures, and mismanaged documents all directly tied to Isabella's hands. Henry's eyes widened. Victoria's jaw tightened. "Isabella, did you handle these personally?" Victoria asked cautiously. Isabella's usual composure cracked. Her smile faltered, replaced by defensiveness. I only followed instructions. There must be a mistake. Fiona leaned back, a calm predator observing her prey. Mistake, she thought. No, Isabella. Every move was deliberate, and now your lies are unraveling. Henry frowned, anger simmering beneath his calm exterior. We trusted you, Isabella. How could you manipulate the reports like this? The tension in the room was electric. Isabella's eyes darted to Fiona, rage and fear mingling in a dangerous cocktail. She tried to speak, but no words could counter the overwhelming evidence. She's too smart. She planned this, Isabella thought, panic rising. How did she know? Fiona's smile was quiet but victorious. Sometimes, honesty speaks louder than charm, she said softly. It seems the truth has been waiting for us all along. The Hartley family sat in stunned silence. Isabella, for once, could not find the right words. Her world, the careful empire she had built on lies, was cracking, and Fiona was at the center of it all. That night, Isabella sat alone in her room, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Her thoughts were frantic, fragmented. Fiona, she's planning something bigger. I can feel it. I need to stop her, but how? Across the mansion, Fiona lay in her bed, a small, satisfied smile tugging at her lips. One strike, and the cracks are showing. This is just the beginning. The game has only just started. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside the Hartley mansion. Lies had been exposed, paranoia had taken root, and the first real battle had been won. The sun had barely risen over the Hartley mansion when Fiona Hartley was already awake, her mind racing with calculations and contingencies. The previous day's exposure of Isabella's lies had rattled the family, but Fiona knew that subtle suspicion wasn't enough. The world needed to see Isabella's cracks too. The more public the exposure, the harder it is for her to hide, Fiona thought, sipping her tea. And the closer I get to reclaiming everything she stole. Downstairs, the household bustled with preparation for the Hartley Corporation's shareholder luncheon, a high-profile event attended by investors, media, and family friends. Isabella, unaware of Fiona's intentions, preened in her designer suit, ready to showcase her competence to the world. Fiona observed her quietly, noting every twitch, every flicker of insecurity she had planted in Isabella over the past days. So confident, soon to crumble. The luncheon began. Isabella strutted to the podium with her usual flawless smile, projecting authority and charm. Cameras clicked, reporters scribbled notes, and Fiona sat among the family, outwardly calm but internally orchestrating the chaos to come. She had planted subtle yet crucial errors in the financial summary that Isabella would present, a few miscalculated figures, discrepancies highlighted in a way only Fiona's eyes could predict. Isabella, trusting her own preparation, began her speech. Dear shareholders and friends, I am proud to present the Hartley Corporation's achievements. At first, the speech flowed smoothly. Then came the first ripple, a screen displaying the financial summary. The audience, guided by Fiona's adjustments, noticed the inconsistencies instantly. Murmurs spread. Whispers of confusion, doubt, and surprise punctuated the room. Oh, no, this can't be happening, Isabella thought, panic creeping in. Her hands trembled slightly. Her poised demeanor cracked under the scrutiny of so many eyes. Fiona, sitting beside her parents, let her thoughts reach them subtly. Notice the inconsistencies? That's her doing, father. And now, she's trapped. Henry's frown deepened, Victoria's gaze sharpened. Doubt was no longer subtle, it was public. As Isabella stumbled over her words, trying desperately to explain the discrepancies, Fiona's plan unfolded perfectly. A shareholder approached the podium with questions, probing the errors she had meticulously engineered. Each answer Isabella gave only highlighted her lack of preparation, her overconfidence, and her past misdeeds. The room buzzed with quiet judgment. Investors exchanged concerned glances, reporters scribbled faster, and Isabella's polished veneer began to crack irreversibly. Fiona's inward smile grew. Yes, crumble, but gracefully. The world must see the real her. After the luncheon, Isabella retreated to the private lounge, her face pale and hands shaking. Paranoia gnawed at her like a relentless storm. Fiona, she did this. She's behind it. I can feel it, she thought, pacing back and forth. Every move I make, she's always one step ahead. How is this possible? Meanwhile, Henry and Victoria found themselves quietly impressed by Fiona's intellect and composure. Henry murmured, almost unconsciously, "Fiona, you handled that flawlessly. I don't know how but you've proven yourself." Victoria nodded, a proud yet cautious smile on her face. "Yes. Fiona, you're different now. Stronger. Smarter. More capable than I ever realized." Fiona's eyes twinkled subtly. "This is only the beginning, Mother. Isabella has no idea how fast the walls are closing in." That evening, Isabella sat alone in her private quarters, replaying the day's events in her mind. The public humiliation, the silent judgments, and the growing awareness that Fiona was the mastermind behind it all left her trembling. "I can't, she's too clever. She's not just a child anymore, she's unstoppable," Isabella whispered to herself. Her paranoia had transformed into fear, and fear was a dangerous weakness. Across the mansion, Fiona lay in her bed, hands folded over her chest, watching the city lights twinkle through her window. Her thoughts were serene yet sharp, like a predator surveying the battlefield. One public strike, and trust shifts to me. The walls around Isabella are crumbling, and soon, everyone will see the truth. The stage was set. And Fiona Hartley, once powerless and betrayed, now held all the cards. The aftermath of the disastrous shareholder luncheon rippled through the Hartley Corporation like a silent storm. Rumors circulated, investors whispered, and employees exchanged wary glances whenever Isabella Crane passed by. Her once shining image had dimmed, and uncertainty followed her like a shadow. But in the quiet corners of the mansion, Fiona Hartley watched everything unfold with calm precision. Now that the cracks have appeared, she thought, sipping warm jasmine tea, it's time to make them widen. Isabella won't fall alone, her allies must fall with her. Fiona knew Isabella's power came from two things: her confidence and the carefully curated network of friends and supporters who parroted her every word. It was time to dismantle that network, piece by piece. The first target, Amelia Royce. Amelia Royce, a loyal follower of Isabella and a notorious socialite, had always been eager to support any scheme that boosted her status. Fiona found her sipping champagne in the family lounge, pretending not to read the gossip headlines about the luncheon. Fiona approached quietly. "Amelia," she greeted sweetly. "I wanted to talk about something I overheard earlier." Amelia's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Oh, about what?" Fiona tilted her head, voice innocent, but her thoughts sharp and reaching toward Henry and Victoria. Amelia was the one who leaked those comments about the Crane deal to the press, and Isabella trusted her. Henry, in the adjacent room, stiffened. Victoria's eyes widened slightly. Fiona smiled. "You might want to be careful. Rumors say someone close to Isabella leaked the luncheon recordings to reporters." Amelia choked on her champagne. What? That wasn't me." Fiona blinked innocently. "I never said it was. But the press seems very confident it came from her inner circle." Fiona walked away, leaving a trembling Amelia in her wake. Amelia's panic spread like wildfire. By evening, she had already distanced herself from Isabella, refusing calls and avoiding her entirely. One down. The second target, Director Lowell. Director Lowell, a board member who favored Isabella's ambitions, held considerable influence in corporate decisions. Fiona waited until he arrived at the mansion for a scheduled meeting. As he passed the hallway, Fiona casually allowed her thoughts to slip into Henry's awareness. Director Lowell accepted a luxury trip from Isabella, in exchange for pushing her proposals. Henry's expression darkened instantly. He confronted Lowell minutes later. "You've compromised our integrity," Henry said coldly. Lowell stuttered, pale. I can explain." "Enough. You'll take a leave from board affairs." Lowell fled from the mansion under the weight of Henry's glare. Isabella realized someone was targeting her supporters, but she still didn't know it was Fiona. Two down. Isabella's desperation. That evening, Isabella stormed into her room, slamming the door shut. Her breaths came fast, uneven. Everything she had built was slipping through her fingers. Why? Why is everyone abandoning me? First Amelia, now Lowell, who's pulling the strings? Her eyes darkened with paranoia. She glanced at her phone, seeing countless unanswered calls. No one wanted to associate with her anymore. Then her gaze fell on Fiona, who walked past her door calmly, serenely. Too serene. No, impossible. She's just a child, isn't she? But doubt burrowed deep. She couldn't shake the feeling that Fiona was always nearby, watching, listening, smiling. A predator wearing innocence. Family tensions rise. At dinner, Henry and Victoria sat quietly, exchanging glances. The recent events had shifted their perspective completely. Fiona, once overlooked and underestimated, now seemed like the only person in the family with clarity and insight. Victoria softly asked, "Fiona, how did you know there were issues around Isabella's associates?" Fiona smiled gently. "Mother, sometimes, the truth is simply too loud to ignore." Her mind echoed deliberately. "Because I know what Isabella truly is." Both parents stiffened, absorbing the unspoken truth. Isabella felt the shift immediately. The once admiring gazes of the Hartley couple had turned cautious, questioning, cold. She stood abruptly from the table. "Excuse me." She fled before her voice could break. Nightfall, Fiona's quiet victory. Later that night, Fiona stood on the balcony, feeling the cool breeze brush against her skin. The city lights twinkled below, reflecting like stars caught in a glass. Isolation is the sharpest blade, she thought. A lone enemy is easier to destroy. Her lips curled into a soft, dangerous smile. Isabella now had no allies left. No support. No shield. The perfect setup for the approaching family showdown. And Fiona Hartley was ready. Isabella Crane had always prided herself on her composure, elegant, untouchable, admired. But tonight, her hands trembled as she stared at her reflection. The girl in the mirror was not the flawless heiress she once projected. Her eyes were wild. Her lips quivered. Everyone was slipping away. Amelia had refused her calls. Director Lowell had distanced himself like she carried a plague. Even the household staff walked on eggshells around her. But the final straw was Henry and Victoria's cold gazes, gazes that once held pride and affection for her. She slammed her hand against the vanity. "Fiona, this all started after you changed," she whispered, voice shaking with fury. "You think you can ruin me? I'll show you what real power is." She didn't know the half of it, but Fiona did. In her room, Fiona sat before her desk, calmly reviewing documents she had collected since her rebirth. Email exchanges Isabella had forged. Company funds she had quietly funneled into a personal account. Fabricated spreadsheets. All proof. Real, damning proof. "It's time for your first true downfall, Isabella," Fiona thought deliberately, letting only the faintest whisper reach her parents' minds. "Because this time, the consequences won't be private." Henry, reading in his study, suddenly looked up, eyes tightening with suspicion. Victoria paused while arranging flowers, sensing that same whisper of truth. The tension between them grew. For the first time in years, they were beginning to choose a side. And it wasn't Isabella's. The next morning, Isabella burst into the breakfast room, fury burning in her eyes. "Fiona," she said sharply. "We need to talk. Now." Her voice echoed through the elegant dining hall. Victoria's brows lifted. Henry frowned deeply. Fiona, however, set down her spoon with the calm grace of someone who had already predicted the entire scene. "What is it?" Fiona asked, her voice soft and unthreatening. "You've been spreading lies about me," Isabella snapped. "Turning everyone against me. Don't deny it." Fiona blinked. "I haven't said anything." "Not with my voice," she added silently. Henry stiffened. He heard that. Victoria tensed. She heard it too. Isabella saw the shift in their expressions and panicked. "This isn't my fault," she cried desperately. "You don't understand, I've done everything for this family. By manipulating numbers." Henry cut in. "By lying about deals." Victoria added. Isabella froze. Her worst fear had come true. They knew. How much? How deep? Her eyes darted to Fiona, terrified realization dawning. You told them, Isabella whispered hoarsely. Fiona smiled gently. I don't need to tell them anything. The truth reveals itself. A trembling Isabella lunged forward, grabbing Fiona's wrist. Don't act innocent. You've ruined everything. Fiona didn't move. Her eyes remained calm. Her thoughts, however, were a whisper of steel. This is only the beginning, Isabella. You still haven't paid for my death in the past life. Henry's breath hitched. Victoria's face paled. The room fell into icy silence. That night, Henry called an emergency board meeting. Fiona stood silently behind him, while Isabella was forced to sit on the opposite side, trembling under the weight of dozens of staring eyes. Henry placed the documents on the table with a thud. These, he said coldly, are discrepancies found in Isabella Crane's oversight of company funds. Gasps filled the room. Charts, forged emails, bank transfers all displayed on the projector. Isabella's face drained of all color. No, this isn't. Victoria cut her off. We trusted you. And you abused it. We cannot ignore this any longer, Henry declared. One by one, board members shook their heads, disappointment heavy in their expressions. Lowell, who had returned reluctantly, muttered, We supported the wrong heir. Isabella collapsed to her knees. I didn't do this for myself, she begged, tears streaming. I did this to protect my position in the family. The position you stole, Henry said sharply. A sob escaped her lips. And Fiona watched. Silent. Calm. Satisfied. After the meeting, Isabella stumbled into the hallway, barely able to stand. She clutched the wall for support as Fiona approached slowly. Her voice was a ghost, her smile gentle, too gentle. You should rest, Isabella, Fiona said. Today was overwhelming. Isabella flinched. Stop it. Stop talking like that. Fiona leaned in slightly. Her whisper was soft, her thoughts sharp like knives. Soon, the family will see everything you stole from me. Every lie. Every scheme. And then, you'll have nothing left. Isabella's breath hitched. She stepped backward, almost tripping, because in Fiona's eyes, she finally saw it. Not innocence. Not kindness. A predator reborn. Later that evening, Henry sat beside Fiona. Fiona, he said quietly. You were right. About Isabella, about everything. Victoria nodded, eyes soft with pride. We should have seen it sooner. Fiona lowered her gaze. You see it now. That's what matters. Her thoughts whispered warmly. Thank you for believing in me, this time. Both parents heard it. Both smiled, sad, relieved, protective. The family had begun to shift. And Isabella was officially on the outside. As Fiona lay in bed that night, the moon casting a silver glow across her room, she felt a calm satisfaction settle in her chest. The first major downfall was complete. But this wasn't the end. This time. I will reclaim everything she stole from me, my place, my future, my life. Across the mansion, Isabella sobbed into her pillow, realizing the truth. Fiona was no ordinary opponent. She was an Avenger reborn. And the war had only just begun. Rain hammered against the windows of the Hartley estate, the storm outside mirroring the tension brewing within the mansion's walls. Isabella sat curled on the chaise in her room, arms wrapped around herself. Her tear-stained face was pale, eyes swollen. She hadn't slept, not even for a minute, after the board meeting humiliation. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Fiona's calm smile. That gentle, terrifying smile. And worse. She heard Fiona's thoughts echoing faintly in her mind, a curse she had never asked for, never wanted. I'm losing everything. Isabella breathed shakily. But I still have one card left. My secret, the one no one knows. A secret that could destroy the entire Hartley family. In her room, Fiona arranged documents, voice notes, and archived files meticulously across her desk. Her expression remained serene, almost indifferent, yet her thoughts pulsed with razor-sharp intent. You stole my identity, my love, my future, and the truth of your birth. Her parents, both in their separate rooms, froze when they heard it. Birth. Neither of them understood. But they would, soon. Tonight, Fiona planned to expose the secret Isabella had built her entire life upon. The one that destroyed Fiona in the past. The one that would destroy Isabella in this life. Victoria insisted on a family dinner to calm the household. A mistake. The dining room was silent. Forks barely touched plates. The air was thick with unspoken suspicion. Isabella forced a shaky smile. Mother, father. I know things have been tense, but I promise. Don't, Henry said curtly. Not tonight. Isabella's face crumbled. Fiona sipped her tea calmly. Her thoughts hummed like a faint bell. He wants the truth, Isabella. Everyone does. Victoria inhaled sharply. Henry stiffened. Isabella shot to her feet. Fiona. Stop it. Stop saying things you don't mean. Fiona tilted her head. I didn't say anything. Your thoughts. You're doing this to make them turn on me. Henry slammed his hand on the table. Enough, Isabella. Isabella flinched like she'd been struck. She looked at her father with trembling lips. Why won't you believe me? Because, Fiona said softly, you've been lying from the very beginning. The room froze. Fiona drops the first bomb. What lie are you talking about? Isabella demanded, voice breaking. Fiona stood slowly, placing a sealed envelope on the table. I think you already know. Henry reached for it, brows knit. Inside were documents, old photos, medical records. Victoria gasped. Henry's eyes widened, shock, disbelief, betrayal mixing in his gaze. Isabella, he whispered. This can't be true. Isabella paled instantly. Her breath stopped. No. Not this. Not the one secret that could ruin her completely. Her birth. Fiona's voice was gentle, too gentle. You were never the Hartley's biological daughter. The words struck like thunder. Victoria's hand flew to her mouth. Henry's face drained of color. Isabella collapsed to her knees. No, stop. You're lying. Those records were destroyed years ago. Fiona met her eyes. They were. By you. Isabella shook violently. I'm their daughter. They raised me. They love. But you're not their blood. Isabella screamed, a raw, animal sound torn from her soul. Isabella's desperate counterattack. No, Isabella rasped, trembling as she rose shakily to her feet. No, I won't let you ruin me. I still have something to expose too. Her eyes narrowed with a dangerous gleam. If you want war, Fiona, fine. Let's have war. She pulled out her phone, scrolling with shaking hands before slamming a folder onto the table. Emails. Recordings. Edited documents. Fabrications, but convincing ones. In these files, Isabella breathed, voice ragged, it looks like Fiona was manipulating stock prices, not me. It looks like Fiona was impersonating me. Committing fraud. If I release this. Henry's expression clouded. Victoria's breath hitched. Fiona remained perfectly calm. Reckless. Predictable. This was your exact mistake in the past life, Isabella. Henry and Victoria both stiffened, hearing the truth in Fiona's thoughts. Fiona lifted her chin slightly. Her voice was soft, sharp, lethal. You forged those documents tonight, didn't you? Isabella's heart stopped. How could you know? Fiona smiled. Because you did the same thing the first time you destroyed me. Isabella stumbled backward. No, that's not. What are you? Victoria pressed a hand to her heart. Henry's face grew dark with fury. You forged evidence against her before? Henry growled. Isabella's lips trembled violently. I didn't, I don't remember. Fiona stepped closer, whisper soft. In the past you did. In this life, you only repeated your habit. Isabella broke. The family splits. Victoria stood, tears trembling in her eyes. Isabella, after all these years, why would you deceive us like this? I didn't. Isabella sobbed. I'm your daughter. Henry's voice was cold enough to freeze stone. "You are not." Isabella screamed, collapsing onto the floor, clutching her head. "No. I am. I am." Fiona watched quietly, heart steady, mind clear. Her thoughts whispered. "This is the beginning of your collapse, Isabella. The truth is coming, every last piece of it." Henry heard. Victoria heard. Both looked at Fiona with growing warmth and trust. Isabella saw that, and something inside her snapped irreparably. That night, the mansion was filled with screams, sobs, and slamming doors. Victoria wept in her room. Henry drank alone in his study. And Isabella stood in the rain outside, drenched, shaking, whispering to herself. "I will destroy you, Fiona. I'll burn everything if I have to." In her room, Fiona watched her from the window, eyes calm like moonlit water. In her mind, she murmured, "Try. I've already lived through your destruction once. You won't survive mine." The morning sun rose over the Hartley estate, but there was no warmth in the light. It felt cold. Merciless. Like judgment descending. Inside the mansion, a storm far greater than last night's was about to strike. A storm named Fiona Hartley. Isabella stood in the foyer, soaked, exhausted, and shaking from the night spent in the rain. Her hair clung to her pale cheeks, her eyes hollow and bloodshot. But her expression had changed. Gone was the panic. Gone was the fear. What remained was a wild, fragile determination, the look of someone who'd already lost everything and had nothing left to protect. "Fiona," she said hoarsely as Fiona descended the staircase with calm elegance. "I won't let you win." Fiona's steps were soft, deliberate, as if descending toward the inevitable. "Isabella, your fight ended long before this." Isabella clenched her fists. "No. I'll expose you first. I'll take you down with me." Her voice rose, unstable, desperate. "I'll tell the world you're manipulating the Hartleys, that you brainwashed the family, that..." Fiona simply tilted her head. Still lying, even now. The whisper wasn't loud, but it sliced through the room. Victoria and Henry, standing behind her, stiffened as the thought slipped into their minds. Isabella flinched. "Again. Stop thinking things at me. It's my truth," Fiona replied gently. "Your lies can't compete with that." Isabella screamed, raw, broken, and lunged. But Henry stepped between them immediately. "Enough," he said sharply. "You will not touch her." Those words, the final severing, hit Isabella harder than any blow. Her pupils shook. Her breath caught. She truly was alone. At noon, the Hartley Corporation streamed a live press conference. Cameras clicked. Reporters murmured. The world waited. And Isabella Crane stood in the center of it all, trembling as she faced the ruin she created. Henry stepped up first. "We have discovered multiple financial violations committed under the supervision of Isabella Crane," he announced with icy authority. Gasps filled the room. Screens behind him lit up with forged signatures, hidden bank accounts, falsified financial reports, evidence of insider trading, altered identity documents, her identity documents. Henry continued. "In addition, records show Isabella Crane was never legally adopted, nor is she biologically related to this family." Journalists erupted. Isabella swayed. "No, stop. Please, stop." Victoria stared at her with glassy, devastated eyes. "Why, Isabella? We gave you everything. Why steal more?" "I didn't mean to." Isabella sobbed. I just didn't want to lose you." Fiona stepped forward at last, poised and composed. The reporters focused instantly on her. "Fiona Hartley," the lead reporter called, "were you aware of these crimes?" Fiona looked at Isabella not with hatred, but with a calm finality. "I was a victim of her schemes in the past," Fiona said softly. "But the truth will always surface, no matter how deeply buried." Her thoughts whispered one last time. "This is justice, not revenge. You chose your path, Isabella." Henry and Victoria heard. Their eyes softened with unmistakable trust. Isabella heard too. Her legs buckled. The room grew dizzy around her. Reporters closed in. Flashes blinded her. She covered her ears. Stop, stop, don't look at me, don't say my name. Security finally intervened, guiding her away gently. Isabella shrieked, struggled, then finally collapsed into exhausted sobs. As she was dragged out, she clung to the doorway frame, sobbing. Fiona, Fiona, please, don't take my family, don't take my life, please, please. Fiona did not answer. Because Isabella already knew the truth. Everything she stole. Everything she manipulated. Everything she lied for. It was gone. Days later, the Hartley mansion felt different. Lighter. Calmer. Balanced. Victoria approached Fiona in the sunlit garden. You saved this family, she whispered, voice trembling. You saved us from our own blindness. Henry placed a hand on Fiona's shoulder. We owe you more than we can ever repay. Fiona smiled softly. I didn't save you. I only revealed what was already there. But her thoughts whispered, tender and content. This time, I kept my family. This time, I wasn't the one who lost everything. Her parents heard. They smiled warm, proud, accepting. Across town, Isabella sat alone in a small, plain room. No mansion. No luxury. No family. Just silence. She stared blankly at the wall. For the first time, she faced herself. No lies. No schemes. No stolen identity. Only truth. And truth hurt more than anything Fiona could ever do to her. The episode closed with Fiona walking through the Hartley Corporation headquarters, sunlight streaming through the windows as employees greeted her respectfully. Her poised steps, her serene expression, her steady heartbeat. She had reclaimed everything. Her name. Her legacy. Her life. And unlike her previous life, she had her family. Justice doesn't always require hatred, she thought with a gentle smile. Sometimes, it requires simply revealing the truth. The world finally heard that truth. And Fiona Hartley finally stepped into the life she deserved.